Yeah, it is what it is, what it ends to not apply. Welcome to the Kasi Talks. We're broadcasting from balcony in Katlehong. And today I'm joined by Thlologelo Lethabo Malatji. Usually, I think in the media, they say you're the youngest person in parliament, right?
One of the youngest.
One of the youngest people in parliament. And also, you've been into the ANC Youth League in Ekurhuleni. You've led there. You've also led in SASCO. He was also the president of COSAS. He has many credentials, this man. Lethabo, welcome.
No, thank you very much,
Thanks, man. So I wanted us to talk about the direction that the ANC Youth League should take, because currently you are contesting to be the president of the ANC Youth League. The ANC Youth League has been troubled for many years since the likes of Julias Malema left. In my perspective, the structure has not been established. It was disbanded many times, and wherever you go, where there's a gathering of young people, they are gathering under a youth league that is not stable, you see. So this is the organization that you want to be the president of. So I thought maybe you should provide us with what direction should the youth league take.
No, firstly, I think let's first acknowledge the fact that the ANC Youth League is faced with challenges. It's a fact. I think we'll be dishonest to say all is well. I think post 2011 conference, after the Youth League took a decision to fight for economic freedom in our lifetime, they had to fight many battles.
Yeah, so
what you must understand that there was a battle that was fought for political freedom, which we're still enjoying even today. The issues of votes and voting and representations in parliament and councillors and the right to movement, that was achieved. But the most important part that was not achieved was the economic freedom, because even post that we were still faced with a high level of inequalities in South Africa, and mainly were black people. It was black people who were oppressed. That's a reality now. They were moved away from economic activities of their own country. Now the freedom was incomplete without economic freedom. That's why, even if you can take it back to history, every time when the African National Congress, which is the mother body of the ANC Youth League, is faced with challenges of not advancing relevant struggles, the Youth League has always played a role of being a body of opinion to influence the ANC. If you can take it back to 1944, the adoption of the program of action, which introduced the armed struggle, the mass mobilization, and international solidarity, and many other programs that were brought in. It was young people at that time, the Lembetes, the Comos. It has always been young people that brought new energy. But something different happened when young people wanted to influence the direction of the ANC. Elders in the ANC felt that they are moving them to a direction they don't want to go to. You can argue it that maybe young people were raising it in a wrong way. You can have argument that there was high level of indiscipline, but the program was important. Now, what was disrupted was the program. And Julias Malema is not a face of economic freedom. It was a decision of young people of the ANC that have met and resolved on it. And what after his expulsion, for many other reasons, the plan was to silence the voice of young people, which was a very. If there's one thing, all people can fight about everything else. But if there's one thing that they're united on, is to silence the voice of young people. Anywhere in the world.
I'm glad you admit it.
Anywhere in the world, Anywhere in the world, you can go everywhere in the world. All people can fight about many other things about their own issues. But if they had to fight to silence the youth, they can unite for that.
Sure.
Because they don't,
it's a common enemy.
They don't believe that a new agenda must be led by a new generation. They believe that because, especially those who are in exile and those that were in the country, those that were in prison, they believe that they're entitled to lead this country until they die.
Yeah.
It's only them that know where they can take the direction of the country. And the Youth League at that time, which fortunately I was part of that generation, and I was part of the conference also in 2011, played a crucial role. We victimized some of us, if you remember. In 2011, we were disbanded, the structures were leading, were suspended. It was a very difficult time. And it was difficult for any young person to raise up their voices, because many of the young people at that time who could not speak One was that others were already in the hands and the pockets of the elders because of patronage.
And I also want us to talk about that.
Yeah, because of patronage. You know, where you are from Katlehong, you have never worked in your whole life. An elder comes and is a minister or mayor or whatever, brings him to the office, they give you a salary for the first time. Then Colin comes as a chair of the youth league and says, let's do a struggle to remove the person that gives. It becomes a difficult one to deal with.
Sure.
But then it became for years, just to fast track the discussion, for 4 years, it was difficult to speak about economic freedom in the ANC. That's why the EFF ran with the program. You must not undermine, over 1 million votes is a lot of votes. Over 1 million people voted for the EFF because they believe in their politics. And those were over 1 million people that the youth league could have mobilized to vote for the ANC for a program of economic freedom if the ANC implemented it. Because whether you like it or not, people are fed up. People want land, people want to break monopolies. There are big monopolies. Even if you can say, even if we can tell you now that you must open a business now. If you have not disrupted the value chain, where if you are saying that you must sell potatoes, if you have not disrupted that you must go and farm them, and can make an example, big companies like Blue Ribbon, they belong to big entities of monopolies. They own the farms where they plant the wheat, they own the trucks that distribute them, they own the factory that put it together into flour, they even own the baker that makes into a bread. Now, if you can't disrupt the value chain, you have not done anything. Even if you own the baker, if you have not disrupted the value chain, they still determine the price of bread. Instead of a simple thing like a bread. Now, the struggle must be about that. So the youth league must be able to be a bold opinion and address it, because there's no one that will join an organization and not speak to their own issues. Because before you are a member of the youth league, you are an individual.
Right.
Now every individual has got individual interest. You join the youth league because you believe in the aims and objectives of the youth league. Again, you come and say, I believe in this struggle. But
after being inducted on those objectives. Right.
Now, if you no longer feel that the youth league speaks to what you join it for, you leave and join what you think addresses your issues.
Right.
That's why you see a lot of young people are confused. Others have lost interest in politics. They decide to stay at home. That's a risky decision. If you lose interest in what is happening in your country, it's a risky decision, because even the fools will take decisions on your behalf. And fools will direct whether you sleep or wake up because of that power. Now, or others go to other political parties that are not progressive. They go to the EFL, they go to the TA, they go everywhere else. Now, those are part of the reasons why we must revive the youth league. But the youth league is facing structural problems. It has been suspended several times because of high level of interferences. Young people are no longer allowed to take decisions on their behalf, to take decisions themselves. Elders always want to direct the youth league, because the youth league is a very important tool that can influence the body politics of the African National Congress. Now,
so you talked about economic freedom, and you talked about disrupting the value chains, but I think those are politics of the economic freedom. Is this maybe perhaps you providing the direction that the ANC youth league should take? Maybe you're saying we should be focusing on economic freedom, and you also acknowledge that that project failed with the likes of Julias Malema. So maybe you want to revive that particular project.
Look, politics is about time and space. There is no better time now than ever. There's no better time than now to advance an economic freedom struggle because of COVID-19. COVID-19 has put a lot of young people to be unemployed. COVID-19 has closed down a lot of businesses that are mainly owned by black people. COVID-19 has affected, on top of the problems we're faced with of inequalities and poverty, COVID-19 has deepened those problems. Now, the best time to wage that revolution is now more than ever. Now, I think that must be the main focus. We must mobilize young people to wage a revolution for economic freedom of lifetime. We must push those in government to implement policy decisions that has to do, because the reality is that we will not be moving anywhere if the economy of the country does not reflect the demographics of the country.
True.
What kind of a nation are you building? You are doing nothing, because you can go to anywhere else in the world, Europe or everywhere else, even America, everywhere. the economy of the country reflects the demographic of the country. I will not speak about the race because the race is a non-racial organization. But we know very well that who are the majority people in the country. Now, if you push, if you push for that, the economy of the country must reflect the demographics of the country. We have covered the problems of the country, united the nation towards one agenda.
So now, the likes of Julias Malema, at one point, we found out that there were people that are sponsoring his pocket. Most of the executive of that youth league that he was leading, they were in certain boards. So also in the ANC, there are people who are directors in certain boards silently. So maybe you saying, let us wage an economic revolution, don't you think it will disturb the income streams of these people and they will come hard on the generation that will be waging that revolution?
The reason we call it a revolution is because what it disturbed. So we call it the revolution because we're saying that not all is well. One must disturb because there can't be peace in a revolution. Things can't remain the same. Now it means things must change. Now for them to change, you must wage a revolution. You must organize and mobilize society to fight against those things. Because if they remain the same, like post 1994, we have not. It has not worked. It has not worked. Post 1994, we're still in the same position that we had even today. The only thing that we have is the right to movement and the right to vote and what else? Nothing else. We have nothing to show. Now we need to establish status quo. We know post 1994, a lot of clever blacks, they call themselves clever blacks, they were co-opted into, because of PE scorings, because of policy, they were co-opted into a lot of companies that were already established, mainly owned by the minorities in the country. And they were just
imperialists.
They were just prefects. You know, if you have been to school, you know somebody who may go classing or ask Angwale bana ba rasang. The job is to guard the blacks not to revolt. Every time the blacks revolt, they put them to the front and say, no, we have one black person, we have a Mutsepe who's a millionaire, but in real terms, they own nothing themselves. But they just co-opted to boards and many others.
If you're a member of the ANC Youth League, automatically you also accept, you become a freedom charterist, right?
Yes.
And the policies or the constitution of the ANC, it also sort of entraps you. And the ANC put in parliament this policy of triple PE. It's the policy of the ANC. And it advocates, if you look at it, it advocates that black people should be co-opted in these imperialist organizations or imperialist companies. So maybe waging this economic freedom revolution will also be against that party triple PE. Am I?
It's not true that triple PE was created for blacks to be co-opted in parliament. Black people decided to be co-opted into white companies to give them credibility to compete. But triple B is simply saying that gives an advantage to black people to have an advantage over well-established old companies in the space. Now it means you can form your own company and compete and build capacity, funding. Now because one shortcuts, we rather go to a Marian Robert that is already established and go and say you are a partner so that we give them BE scorings, then they compete other blacks. But Triple B is a very good program. It's a program for transformation, it's a program to resolve these issues. Now, because of shortcuts, we want the fastest way to make money. We want to have Marian Robert doing their work while we're sitting at News Cafe, holding our iPads and doing nothing and getting paid at the end of the month. We don't want to build anything. Now, that thing creates a platform for us to have an advantage to compete. That's the role of Triple P.
So you were part of a generation in COSAS that advocated for one learner, one tablet. Yes. Currently, as we are faced with COVID-19, the struggle for online learning is necessitated. So I want to know what is your stance in this whole thing of online learning, because we haven't, our young people don't even know how to use a computer. Young people don't even know how to use the internet or maneuver in the internet. But alas, they are faced with the struggle of using the internet for learning. What is your stance on that?
Look, we want, as young as we were at that time in 2010, we want the government of South Africa that we must move with times. We say that we need to have paperless classrooms. If you remember very well, we had the biggest march to the office of the MEC of Gauteng at that time to engage on the issue of paperless classrooms. Upapra Chris and them were still in office at that time. and I know they attempted to do it, but it did not move at the speed that it should have moved. But if they have listened to us and invested resources to making sure that at least each and every corner of South Africa,
So
the
camera running.
broadband issue is in place. The broadband issue is in place. Every township, every corner must be able to access internet, Wi-Fi, everywhere. The infrastructure must be put in place. We will not be in the situation that we are at now. And it exposed a high level of inequalities because kids from advantaged background continue studying during COVID. Then they could do everything online. The teachers could interact with them. They could go to Zoom meetings. But kids in the townships and rural areas could not do that because the infrastructure was not in place. But if they have listened, that's why we need a younger leadership to lead. If they have listened to us, it's 11 years ago. If they have listened to us 11 years ago, they would have not have the problem. It's only now they're trying to panic. They're panicking. You know, when you're in a panic mood, they're doing everything very fast. And by now, they should be implementing the system that they put in place. But they were saying that it's not too late. We need to push. The Minister of Communication must be held accountable because it can't happen that we're still discussing broadband technology even today. It's a long-time resolution.
You're right.
By now, we should be discussing connectivity. You know, the infrastructure should be in place, everything should be there. Now, another problem that we're faced with, because a lot of young people have left politics, have said, those that are in positions of authority are not held accountable on decisions of what they must implement. And I don't understand why even today, why the Minister of Communication is not held accountable that a big township like Katlehong doesn't have fiber every corner of Katlehong. There is no high level of connectivity in this area. By this time, you know, they've not migrated to broadband technology. Now it's a problem. People must be accountable for that. We need a youth league to hold them accountable.
And such a youth league must be a very innovative youth league. A youth league that is hungry for change. But now if you assess from the outside, I don't know, maybe it's me, if you assess the culture inside the ANC youth league right now, you'll find that their lifestyle, it's expensive. There's too much of partying and drinking, and there's this thing, the tenderpreneurs that is happening. The youth league currently, I could say, that they do not give the image that they're activists, but they give the image that they are highly trained mafias. You might disagree, but I don't know. What then would you do if that's the case? What would you do to change the lifestyle and culture of the ANC youth league currently?
You know, it's not for the first time in the history of the youth league where the youth league is exposed to resources. Some of us who grew up in the youth league, we can tell we've been exposed to resources, to spaces for a very long time in our lives. The problem is consciousness. You know, we were rehabilitated, we were briefed that your role is to serve, your role is to do this. You must appear. There's still high level of inequalities in the country. You can't appear opulence. You can't go and continuously spit in the face of the poor because we've acknowledged that there's poverty in this country. And, you know, if you can go back to the history of Peter Mokaba, and young people will always be young people. You can't derive young people from socializing. But how you do it, you must not do it in a way that it appears like we're in an era of class materialism where everyone, if you want to be appear in fashion, you must be in the youth league, drive a V-Class or whatever car you drive, show off in the townships. When you go to clubs in the townships, you want to be the one that drinks the most expensive porkel. You know, you want to be everywhere and all of those things. We need to address those kind of things. But that behavior is caused by lack of political education. The disbandment of the youth league has opened up a lot of opportunities. We no longer know what is in the movement. And the dangers about an organization like the ANC is that it's a ruling party. You know, being in the ruling party is very attractive because being the ruling party, there's opportunities to change people's lives. But there are those that want to turn those opportunities for themselves. You know, if we're saying Baanetse, I always make this example that Baanetse, maybe would like on Klapo. You grew up in Klapo, you have established your own business. We say, and then you bid for a project, a tender. Then you are given on the basis of compliance and also of being young and black as an advantage. But then you going to complete the project in Klapo, because we think you understand also that in Klapo there's a problem of sanitation, there's a problem of infrastructure and all these things. You'll do it better. But if Baanetse becomes the first person to not complete the project in club or where you grew up, where you know the challenge, he steals the money, before the project even finishes, you already own an X7 and Golf. You no longer even stay in the township, you have moved out of the township. Then you are the enemy of the people. Because you are worse than even apartheid, because you understand the struggle of the people. Now, people tend to abuse the name of the ANC for themselves. Because you can't stop projects. Projects must happen. And projects must be done by people. Now, the question is, are people conscientized enough to understand the responsibility given to them? Or they think it's an opportunity to them to if they've been dreaming of an X7, then them finishing their work first, and check whatever profit that is left of the work they're done to buy whatever. They rather steal from the project and rush to buy those things. Now, it's an issue of consciousness. People lack what you call revolutionary morality. You know, if you lack revolutionary morality, no matter what you do for you, there's nothing that is going to change. You will always become an animal. Because anyone that lacks revolutionary morality is an animal. It's a danger to his society. It's a danger to everybody else. It's like somebody who ochampang le bota o tswa ha makhelwane a tse bora makhelwane le bona they abana thelete o tshwana le go habo. Now that person lacks revolutionary morality. How you carry yourself in society and how you behave is a problem. Now that is not the ANC. The brand ANC has not done anything. The brand ANC is damaged by individuals that are allowed in the African National Congress. The ANC at this current point is even struggling to pay salaries in the house. But there are people who appear in commissions every day that have stolen billions in the name of the ANC. Now, I want to show you one particular example. An organization that people are appearing in commissions, some of them, that they've stolen money in the name of the ANC and ANC government. That organization, in its own head office, it can't even pay salaries. Now, it tells you the kind of infiltration that we're facing.
And I like that you brought that into light. I did not understand that dynamic, but now that you mention it, then we as the public can see that maybe perhaps it's not the ANC that's stealing money. No. Because in the street, that's what they're saying. The ANC is ripping us off. And this is the ANC.
Your neighbors are volunteers of the ANC. Your next street are volunteers of the ANC. Most of them, sometimes they go to home without food to eat. Now, which man is the ANC stealing? Because it's individuals who are members. Remember, the ANC is an organization that is open to people to join. And it's got its own systems of democracy, and people get elected on this organization. But doesn't mean if you are elected as a leader of the ANC, you have what we call revolutionary morality. That's why the ANC, they set up systems of the Integrity Commission and many others to try to start a process of cleansing itself. And you can see in the presence of the ANC, and many other leaders are trying to their level best so that let's clean the ANC. But the reality is that beneficiaries of corruption do not go down without a fight. They're going to fight. Who's going to allow themselves to be arrested, go to jail, or lose everything they have? They're going to fight. But it's a fight that is necessary. We need to fight against corruption. We need to fight for a betterment of our people in South Africa.
So, in conclusion, I have 3 questions. I don't know if you will just the struggle of fees must fall. The ANC Youth League was not there, so people did not get to hear the input of the ANC Youth League around that issue. We are faced with high levels of unemployment, even in municipalities that are run by the ANC. What is the solution from the ANC Youth League for unemployment? And lastly, you said that young people must join politics, or they are in danger if they are not participating in politics. What is it that you would like to sell to them that can motivate them to join the same ANC that they blame for stealing their money, the same ANC sends entrepreneurs? Those are my 3 questions.
Okay, I think let's start by saying that there's nothing called entrepreneur. It does not exist. There's no such thing. The issue of the issue of the opportunities created for employment. Look, the role of government it has always been to create an environment for businesses to come and invest and create opportunities for employment for people to be employed, mainly young people. And look at Ekurhweni, for example. Our factories are closing down every day. The biggest mistakes we're doing as a government were, why do we import steel from China when we've got so many factories here that can produce steel? You know, our trade agreements are You know, sometimes I ask myself, these people who sign these trade agreements, what are they thinking at that time? Because you can't say when you are a country that has got so many minerals, you've got platinum, you've got all of these minerals to produce all of these things, but you still sign trade agreements that allows you to import things that you could produce at home. Because why are we, you know, I've got a strong view that we must not export more than 20% of our raw material. Production must happen at home. Secondary and tertiary production must happen at home. We must export final products overseas. They must buy them from us. Why must we send our raw materials there, then we buy them back? Yeah. What are we going to use to create jobs? Well, Africa is a blessed nation. There is no continent as blessed as Africa anywhere else in the world. You know, the USA is one of the biggest economies. What minerals do they have? They don't even have any minerals. They strive on oil. They don't even have oil. They strive on gold. But countries that have those minerals, which people who are Christians who believe in God must understand that we're a blessed nation. If we're a blessed nation, it means that we need to use what we have. African minerals must benefit Africans, and that is the most important element. That's the only way we can fight the issue of unemployment. But apart from that, if we're still exporting and doing all of these things, raw materials and killing our own factories, exporting steel, you know, why do you export steel? When we're one of the biggest steel producers in Africa, why do you export steel now? Then it means when you export steel, it means some jobs are going to be lost in the process.
Absolutely.
Now, we can't sabotage ourselves through trade agreements that we sign when we are in these economic conferences. That's why we need a younger leadership. We need to accept that the generation of the exileists and the one they've played their role, must appreciate the role that they've played. But a younger generation must come in to take the country forward. I don't expect them to bring any other new ideas to take us forward.
So the issue of fees must fall.
The fees must fall issue, it happens.
Maybe you can link it with the Ekurhuleni University. Ne?
Nature doesn't allow a vacuum. When the Youth League was at its worst and paralyzed, the government of South Africa, led by the ANC, and the Youth League is not there to voice out and advise them, increase fees. You must remember, it's in 2015, after we've elected the Youth League leadership in 2015, the Youth League was faced with too many challenges. Then when you increase fees, then there's no revolutionary student or youth organization that is there to organize young people to revolt against it. Young people organize themselves because they're not waiting for you to. Remember, we're an issue-based organization. Now, if they feel that, as I said in the beginning, every individual joint organization speaks to their interests. If they feel that you no longer represent them, they're going to organize themselves to fight for their own agendas. That's why the Fees Must Fall movement, we saw a lot of young people. And mainly most of these young people were from the Progressive Youth Alliance, were from the ANC, but they could not use that logo of the ANC to the struggle because at that time the Youth League was not sure whether it's coming or going in that revolution. But the struggle had to continue. They had to fight for no fee increment. The issue of the University of Ekurhuleni is in progress. The president has pronounced on it. There's a lot of processes that are in place, bureaucratic processes are in place. I think the next coming 7-8 years, there'll be progress on, there'll be infrastructure, all of those things.
Oh, okay. I thought it's an ancient thing, like 2
no,
years.
Remember, you can't wake up in the morning and build a university. You must do you must do studies. You must analyze what skills you need. We've agreed that we need a University of Technology, ICT, and all of that in Ekurhuleni because of the environment that we have here. You need to build an infrastructure. You need to get accreditation. You need to get approval from higher education. It's a process. Remember, we are not operating in vacuum. Your qualification from University of Ekurhuleni must be able to be organized internationally and everywhere else. You want to use it. Now, you can't rush it. But for now, the most important thing that we are neglecting, that we must resolve urgently, we need to link the FET colleges to the economic activities of what we want to achieve in the city. You can't have, you can't have an FET college that is doing business management, FET college that is doing hospitality. So we need to be clear on what we want to do. We need to drive the skills to an agenda of because I said we're in Rotopolis, we're an airport city. Now every skill that we produce must be linked to the agenda of the city. Yeah,
but so I think hospitality is relevant because there will be hotels and...
Yeah, you can create institutions for that. You can create schools for that. I'm saying that the TVET colleges must mainly focus on technical skills to provide artisans, to provide engineers, a lot of these things that can be able to assist that process.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Colin Malatji, man, for coming through. That was Colin Malatji, one of the youngest members of parliament in the ANC caucus, and also a presidential candidate for the ANC Youth League. I wish you all the best, man. You have the support of many people out there, so all the best. Thank you for coming. Do share the podcast everywhere on social media, and also subscribe on our YouTube channel and also on our website. We out.